How's it going everyone? My name's Murray, I'm from the Instagram channel The Westmount and I'm teaming up with Hobgoblin today to provide you guys with a beer cocktail masterclass for Hobtoberfest. So if any of you have the Hobgoblin beer cocktail kit at home, get out just now because we're going to crack on with the cocktails and get started. We're using 4 beers from the Witchwood Brewery. Now I'm going to talk through the beers and talk about the flavour profiles, etc. So we're going to start things off with the Hobgoblin IPA. Now this is absolutely delicious. It's really light, it's really fruity, it's very citrusy, and one of the main flavour profiles in this IPA is fresh grapefruit. So yes, that's the Hobgoblin IPA. Now the Hobgoblin Gold, which is absolutely delicious. It's a gold beer, it's very traditional, it's lovely, it's very light, very fruity. I think it's quite floral. I get a lot of stone fruits from it, so I get kind of apricot, peach, that kind of flavour. Also, one of the notes in the beer is tropical fruit, so like passion fruit, pineapple, that kind of thing. So yeah, like, I don't even need to say anymore, like, it's delicious. Now this one is interesting. So this is the Hobgoblin Ginger Beard. So it's an alcoholic ginger beer, and unlike most ginger beers that are alcoholic where it tastes like ginger beer but it's just boozy, this is actually a twist between ginger beer and traditional beer. So it still has that hoppy flavour that beer has, but also has this really nice fresh spice to it as well, which honestly I didn't know if it would work, and that's me being completely honest with you. I wasn't sure, and I did try it and it was absolutely lovely. So yeah, lovely stuff. Okay, so this is the Hobgoblin Ruby beer. Now, this one is very, very tasty. It's quite dark. It's not, I wouldn't say it's overly bitter, but it's definitely on the more bitter side if you're a fan of those kind of beers. And it's very chocolatey, dark fruits, that kind of thing. One of the main things I got, I was thinking almost like mulled wine-esque, but it's like really rich in flavour as well. So let's crack on with opening the beers. So we're going to start off with the Hobgoblin Gold. Slide that along. Now, when we're creating these cocktails, in my head, what I'm thinking of as a bartender is, okay, I've got the main flavour, which is obviously the beer. We're trying to find flavours that will obviously match that or complement that. So that's why I've gone with whiskey as one of the spirits in the drink, because I think that the flavours in the whiskey match the flavours of the beer perfectly, and they'll help to kind of come together and bring the beer to life. So we're going to get started. So make sure you've got a cocktail shaker handy. Now if you don't have one at home, don't worry, it's not the end of the world. If you have a jar or anything that's got an airtight seal, that'll work perfectly, and I have used that in the past, so I can confirm it does actually work. But yeah, I'm using a cocktail shaker today. Now we are going to start off with a generous helping of Johnny Walker Black Label. So we're going to go with a 50ml measure. Next up, we're going to use some apricot jam. Like I was saying earlier, flavours matching them, that's what we're going for, and one of the flavours I thought of was stone fruit. So we're going to use some apricot jam, and I'm going to use around a heaped bar spoon, which is the equivalent to a generous teaspoon as well. So throw that in there and give it a wee mix. And to balance this cocktail, we're going to be using fresh lemon juice. Now, with balancing cocktails, there are a few ways that you can balance them. Citrus juice and sugar is one of the ways. You've got your sweetness and your sour. So obviously sour in the lemon and then sweetness in the apricot jam. And another way you can balance it is with bitterness as well. So you've got bitterness and sweetness. So cocktails like Negronis, for example, is a perfect example. You've got your bitterness from the Campari and your sweetness from the sweet vermouth, and that's how you kind of balance cocktails. Very similar to like salt and pepper in food, or savoury and sweet, that kind of thing. It works the exact same way in cocktail making. So yes, citrus, we're using fresh lemon. It's going to be around 25ml of lemon juice. What I've worked out is usually it's around half of a lemon. But yeah, so I'm going to be using half of a lemon and we're going to be squeezing it in. Get all of the juice in. Doesn't matter if the seeds fall in, that's not a problem because we're going to be straining it out anyway. And that's everything good to go. So then we're going to be adding some ice. Obviously, I know it's pretty self-explanatory, but make sure you've got nice clean hands when you're making the cocktail, because Yeah, you don't need me to explain that. But yeah, that's good to go. So seal up your jar or cocktail shaker, whatever it is, and give it a quick shake. Okay, and next up, so grab a highball glass and fill it with ice. And I'm going to be using a fine strainer because I just don't want any ice shards or obviously like the lemon pulp or anything like that in the cocktail. Now if you don't have one of these fancy little kind of cocktail strainers, a tea strainer works the same, or just a kitchen sieve as well. Not as pretty, but it works the exact same way. So strain it in. Make sure you get every last drop. Okay. And then to finish the cocktail, we're going to be topping it with the Hobgoblin Gold beer. Nice and slowly. Like so. So yeah, obviously you've got your whiskey, your lemon juice, your apricot jam, and your Hobgoblin Gold, and the flavours in this are truly, truly amazing together. A very good cocktail to start your night on as well because it's quite fizzy. So this one here is the Hobgoblin Gold Whisky Sour. Okay, so moving on, I'm going to be using the Hobgoblin Ruby for the next cocktail. Like I was saying earlier on, there are different ways to obviously balance cocktails, and we're going to be using sweetness and bitterness in this cocktail. So obviously, like I said, the beer is on the slightly bitter side, so we're going to use that to our advantage and add that as sort of like in a way to balance the cocktail. Now, one of the flavours that I'm going to be using is sweet vermouth. I feel like a lot of people don't give it its credit, and I'll tell you why. So I've had people tell me in the past, some of my friends, family, saying that they don't like sweet vermouth, it's like an old lady's drink, that kind of thing. I disagree. I think it is absolutely phenomenal, and it's definitely something that you should stock in your bar cart at home. Sweet vermouth is a really, really good way of adding sweetness to a cocktail, as well as helping to modify the flavours as well. This sweet vermouth in particular is very kind of Christmas spice. It's very kind of, you get a lot of cinnamon. I'm getting kind of Christmas pudding-esque flavours here. And that's why we're going to be using it to pair it with the dark ruby beer, because the flavours in the ruby beer are just super, like you've got figs, raisins, and I just feel like those flavours just work so perfectly together. So this one is maybe the most simple cocktail you'll ever make in your life, and I mean that. It is literally 50 ml of your sweet vermouth. Just like that. Now, like I was saying, we're going to add a touch of bitterness to the cocktail, and like I was saying earlier, the Hobgoblin Ruby beer is slightly bitter as is, but we're going to help to just kind of add a touch more bitterness by adding some Angostura bitters. And once again, obviously you've got Christmas spices, you've got cinnamon, clove, nutmeg in the Angostura, and that'll really help to bring this cocktail to life and give it a bit of depth. So 1 dash of Angostura bitters. I'll add 2 because I really love it. And then we're going to be adding some ice next. Another thing I would like to touch on as well is the reason that we mix ingredients sometimes in a cocktail shaker, and if we just pour it into the glass or in a kind of in a mixing glass that you would call it in the bar. The reason being is some cocktails, if they include juice for example, they need to be shaken because the juice and the alcohol doesn't mix, or it doesn't like mixing, so you need to help kind of add a good vigorous shake to get all the ingredients well incorporated. Now this cocktail is just alcohol. It's obviously vermouth, Angostura bitters, which is alcoholic, and beer, and that's it. So it really just needs stirred because it will mix really, really easily. So we're going to add all of the ingredients into the glass. Now this one is one of the ones that you would probably think sweet vermouth and beer, it just sounds ridiculous, but it is absolutely amazing together. The flavours are really, really nice. Don't knock it till you've tried it. So that is literally it. Obviously I would recommend maybe not filling it up so high because it's going to be a lot harder to mix. Yeah, literally we're just going to give it a brief stir to chill it, as well as mix the ingredients as well. This cocktail is super, super, super simple. Literally 3 ingredients. So if there's anyone out there that is a fan of their classic cocktails, obviously you do know that sweet vermouth, Angostura bitters and whiskey makes a Manhattan. So I guess in a way You could call this a beer Manhattan, and it is the Hobgoblin Ruby Hobhattan. So cheers everyone. Okay, so next up on the Cocktail Beer Masterclass, it's going to be with the Hobgoblin IPA. If you don't like IPA, please try this and then tell me if you don't like it, because if you don't like it after that, yeah, there's definitely something wrong with you. So it's very citrusy, very fruity, not overly bitter in my opinion as well, and it's really easy drinking, and because obviously it is super grapefruit forward, that's what we're going to be playing with when it comes to making this cocktail. So we're going to start things off with a cocktail shaker again. Obviously, like I was saying earlier, there is going to be fruit juice involved in this one, so we need to mix it to make sure that the ingredients are well mixed together. So we're going to be using fresh citrus juice for this cocktail, and it's going to be fresh grapefruit juice. Now, because grapefruit is one of the main flavours in the beer, I want to go quite heavy on the grapefruit juice just to try and help balance and level out the strength of the flavour in the beer. So we're going to be going with 75 mils. Another thing that when it comes to making cocktails at home, I would like to stress that using fresh juice is leagues better than anything from concentrate. Even when it comes down to things like buying juice from cartons, if you're going to try and buy the stuff that's not from concentrate, because it makes a huge difference, especially when it comes to lemon juice, lime juice. So yeah, fresh juice always. Next up, we're going to be using honey syrup. Now, in the beer kit, you do actually get a sachet of honey. Now, to make the honey syrup, it is literally just equal parts of honey and warm water, and just stir it till it's all well dissolved. And the reason being, fresh honey, when you add it to ice in cocktails, it doesn't actually mix, it just hardens. So when it's obviously in a syrup form like this and it's a lot more runny, it just helps to mix a lot easier, and it saves any hassle. So we're going to be using 15 millilitres of honey syrup. Next up, we're going to be using a dash of Angostura bitters again, if I can find it. There we go. In my opinion, grapefruit, I think it is obviously a citrus and it is quite sweet, but I do think it actually leans on a more bitter scale. So that's why I'm only using a dash of Angostura bitters to help balance the cocktail, because obviously sweetness from the honey syrup and then our bitterness from the grapefruit and in the Angostura. So one dash should do it. Okay, so next up we're going to be adding some ice. Close over the lid and give it a quick shake. Okay, and with a highball glass again, we're just going to be filling it with ice. Because like I was saying earlier, we've shaken it with ice and there's going to be wee ice shards and obviously like maybe wee bits of grapefruit. So I'm going to be using a fine strainer again, just to get rid of all of that. And then we're going to top it with our Hobgoblin IPA. And that's literally the cocktail good to go. Once again, I'm going to give it a quick kind of up and down stir, just to help the beer flow through the cocktail, just so we can get a nice even flavour as we're going down. What I'm going to be doing to garnish this cocktail, like I was saying, obviously grapefruit is the main flavour profile, so what I'm going to do, we're going to be zesting the grapefruit over the drink, just like so, just to get those oils expressed all over the drink, so when you take your first sip, you'll get this lovely hit of fresh grapefruit. Dunk them in, and that's good to go. So here you have it, that is the third cocktail for you, and that is the Hobgoblin Bitter Bee, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do, so cheers. Okay, and last but not least, we're going to be moving on to the Hobgoblin Ginger Beard. Now, I did deliberately leave this one till last because I do think this one is maybe my favourite cocktail. I got that lovely kind of ginger flavour. The first thing I was thinking was including pineapple into the drink. And the way that we're doing that is super interesting and really fun as well. So obviously start with cocktail shaker. This is a pineapple rum from Dead Man's Fingers. Now you do actually get this rum in the beer cocktail kit, and it's the perfect amount that we're going to be using. But we're going to be starting with 50 millilitres. Okay, so next ingredient, we're going to be using sugar syrup. Now this is Demerara syrup. It is a preference if you want to use regular white sugar syrup or if you want to use caster sugar. It does not matter at all. The reason I'm using Demerara is just because it complements the rum. But yeah, to make this, it is just 2 parts sugar to 1 part boiling water. Stir it and it's good to go, and it should last in your fridge for around a month. So we're going to be adding 15 millilitres of our Demerara syrup, or whatever syrup you go for. Next up, we're going to be using fresh lemon juice again. Now, I've got the other half from earlier on, so squeeze in half of a lemon. Okay, add some ice and give it a brief shake. So next up, get a highball glass again, fill that with ice, and strain it into your glass. Just like so. And then top it with your Hobgoblin ginger beer. Lovely. Now, to garnish this drink, I'm going to be going a wee bit over the top because it is probably the most tropical one that we've made so far. Now, I'm going to be garnishing it with fresh mint. So to express the oils out of the mint, super simple. Put it in the palm of your hand, give it a very light slap, and then the oils are good to go. They'll be expressed. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run around the glass, giving it light slaps, and that will help to kind of just leave some oil residue on the rim of the glass. So when you go to take a drink, you'll get a lovely flavour of mint as well. So we're going to be adding that in there like so. And now I'm going to be going one step further here. So this is a dehydrated pineapple, which looks super cool. Also makes super good syrups as well. Like, it's super handy to have, and the best part is it's really easy to make, as well as it lasts for ages. So if you want to make this at home, guys, what you need to do is cut it really thin, leave it in the oven for around 6 to 8 hours at 60 degrees Celsius. What that'll do is then that'll dehydrate the pineapple, meaning that it'll look super cool like this, and then because it's been dehydrated, it will last for months as well. Just keep it in an airtight container and it'll be good to go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this off to the side like so, add my mint in, and voila. But that's about it from me, guys. Thank you so much for joining, genuinely. If you do want to grab the beer cocktail kit and obviously rewatch the video, you can grab the full kit on the Hobgoblin website. Make sure to check out the Hobgoblin website as well. They've got a lot of cool virtual classes and events that they're hosting through Hobtoberfest. So here's to 2020 being a little bit better with drinking lots of beer.